What's happening, guys? Welcome back to today's video. Today we're talking all about the Sigma 2470 2.8. I have it here on my A7R III, but I also have with me the Sony G-Master 2470 and the Tamron 28-75. So you guys have been asking which one do I recommend. Straight off the bat though, I do want to say that the Sigma is a really fantastic lens and I definitely recommend it. Price to quality is amazing. There is a few things that I don't like and a few things that I do like, so let's jump into those right away. And as always, I've uploaded some raw files for you guys to download so you can have a play with the Sigma files and check them out for yourself. So I like to put things in order, and we're going to start with the build quality first. And honestly, it's really not lacking in any department here. It's really fantastic. They made it feels like a really high quality lens. One of my favorite things about it, which some lenses aren't coming with these days, it's kind of unfortunate, but this one does have the function button here, the AF/MF switch, which I really like. I do use that a lot on my G-Master lenses. And it does have the zoom ring lock on the side here. The Tamron is the only one that doesn't have that. That's a completely naked lens. It doesn't have any switches or function buttons or anything like that on it. The nice thing about the Sigma one is you can lock it and then it keeps it in place if you're carrying it around, but you can just turn the zoom ring and it automatically unlocks. Has a nice little click there for you as well. One thing that did stick out to me is the zoom ring actually goes the other way, so you throw it to the left to zoom out, where the Tamron and the Sony lenses and every other lens made by Sony is the other way around. So it wasn't too much of an issue for me because I don't really use zoom lenses. The only zoom lens I own is the Tamron 70-28, and I really only use it for my YouTube channel. But I imagine if you paired it up with like the G-Master 70-200, it may be an issue, maybe a little bit confusing, but you'd probably get used to it. It's just something to note. I don't really think it's a big deal. The focus ring is really nice, really smooth. No issues at all with manual focusing. I really enjoy that. It has a nice sort of feel to it. And it does have a big meaty 82mm front filter thread, so you're going to need some big filters on there if you plan on protecting it. The last thing in terms of build quality is it does have the weather sealing gasket on the back, and I believe this one has, they've upped the weather sealing capabilities of this lens compared to some of the older Sigma lenses that are coming out, so I'm pretty confident this one is going to be more weather sealed and probably just as good as the G-Master lens in bad weather. Now you guys know I'm not really a spec kind of person, but I'm not sure of the exact weight. I'll put it up in the corner so you can see for yourself, but in a real world situation, just holding it, there's not a lot of difference. I think the G-Master is probably slightly heavier, but it's a little bit longer as well, so it's going to be a little bit more top heavy. But if weight's a factor, it's not going to be an issue between these two. The Tamron, however, is much lighter than the Sigma and the Sony, and you can definitely notice it. It's also a lot skinnier with the thick boy Sigma here. Now, in terms of focusing, the Sigma is really fantastic. I didn't have any issues in backlight focusing or anything like that. It worked really well in all situations, tracking my daughter running towards me. I didn't find any issues. It seemed to be just as good as the G-Master side by side, so really happy there. The video focus is a little bit funny. It does work good enough for most situations. I did find it was a little bit jerky and a little bit hunty in some situations, but for the most part it's really good, and I think usually Sigma lenses get better with firmware updates in terms of video focusing. That always seems to be a point that's lacking and just lags behind a little bit. But like I said, I'm pretty sure it's going to be updated in the near future and it should get a little bit better. Focusing noise, however, it's silent. You can't hear anything. With video or photo focus, it's completely silent pretty much. You can hold it up to ear really closely and kind of hear something, but it is a silent lens. Really happy with that. Now, in terms of image quality, I can tell you straight off the bat that the Sigma is a little bit sharper than the G-Master in the center, but this G-Master has a little bit better performance on the outside edges. Not by a long shot, but you will notice it if you put them up side by side. But if you're not comparing them, they're both really fantastic, really sharp lenses. The Sigma has a little bit better controlled chromatic aberration, which is nice to see. They both actually perform really well. And the Tamron, in terms of sharpness, is really fantastic also, actually. I can't really complain with either of them. The Tamron's actually really fantastic also. I had no issues with that in terms of sharpness. It's great all over. The Sigma does have a little bit more vignetting than both of them, but I find the G-Master to be a little tiny bit better overall. Like I said, with the Sigma being a little bit sharper in the center, and the Tamron just being a really slight touch behind both of them, but really nothing to write home about. They're all three of them fantastic lenses, and they're all really sharp and have great image quality. The only thing with the Sigma is I did find on the outside edges, on the really kind of extreme edges of the frame, you can see if you download the raw files for yourself, but it does kind of fall off a little bit at 2.8. To be expected. If you stop it down to like 5.6, it just gets sharper, and it's pretty good all around the frame. Flaring is really nice with the Sigma. I know you guys want me to talk about that, so I purposely took some photos into the sun. And funny thing I found with this one, it has a star effect if you're at 2.8 or down at f11, so that, you know, star burst effect on the sun is there even wide open. I don't know if I like that or not. I do quite like at 1.4 with my other lenses, it kind of just fades out into a blurry mess of goodness of light, but it does look nice, and flaring is controlled in terms of seeing artifacts all around the frame. It's really well controlled in that department. So after all that, probably the biggest factor deciding about which one you're going to buy is going to be the price, as they vary a lot. So roughly speaking, depending on where you buy it and where in the world you are, but if we go off the pricing on B&H Photo, the Sony 2470 is about $2,100. The Sigma is about $1,100, so almost half the price of the Sony version, and the Tamron is about $900 US, so a little bit cheaper than the Sigma. Honestly, it's actually really difficult to recommend the Sony over the Sigma, just because they are so close in terms of image quality, build quality, functionality. Aside from the funny zoom ring direction, really the only way I can recommend the Sony is if you're going to be doing a lot of video work and a lot of video autofocus in particular. The Sony is probably going to be the better option, but it's a hell of a lot more expensive, and the Sigma still focuses fine. The Tamron focuses really good in terms of video, probably a little bit better than the Sigma as well, but it's really going to come down to budget, and overall I think the Sigma is definitely the best buy out of all three in terms of value for money. The only unseen thing really is reliability. We know the Tamron is reliable. We know the Sony G Master is definitely reliable. The Sigma hasn't been on the market for as long, so we're not quite sure exactly how long it's going to last in the hands of a full-time professional. Shooting 50 weddings a year, really going to put it through its paces. But it feels like a really well-made, really reliable lens, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, to be honest. But it's just something to note because it just hasn't been on the market for long. So in short, if money's not an issue and you're making $1 million a day, then just go and buy the Sony G Master. Just buy all three of them. What does it matter, right? But in reality, a lot of us have to stick to a budget, and the Sigma is really going to be the best option for most people, I think. Now, I haven't talked about the Tamron a whole lot. I don't want to leave it out to the side, although I feel like it's been left out a little bit because the Sigma is so cheap and really, really amazing quality. Let me put it straight out there though, if you already have the 28-75 Tamron, I don't think I'd be selling it to buy either of these lenses. The difference between them is not that dramatic that you're going to notice any difference in upgrade. I think if you went and sold the Tamron to buy the Sigma to upgrade, I really don't think you'd be able to justify the extra cost or the money lost from selling a second-hand lens. So all three are fantastic lenses, but if you're coming into the game new, buying your first 2470, I'd probably just go for the Sigma. I hope this video helped you guys out. I'll see you in the next one in a couple of days.